beautiful day here in Rotterdam, New York. I'm Dr. Ed Baz, and my background is that in biblical archaeology and botany. Thus, behind you, those of you that are here, please stop by and see one of the outreach ministries from this church, which is the Bridge Christian Church, and they are sponsoring a community garden project. And it's open to the community. Please stop by and take a look, and stop by and visit the gardens this afternoon. What a glorious day. It's the kind of day that Jesus would have just entirely and utterly enjoyed, probably would have inspired him to give some kind of a brief message of meaning to his disciples, those that were interested, those that were intrigued by this lowly Galilean. On a day similar to this, on a much steeper slope, up in the northern section of Israel, a place called Galilee, one day he just started using analogies and stories that everyone would have completely understood. And the one I want to share with you just for a few brief moments was, he started out by saying one day, a certain farmer went forth to sow seed. I think nearly everyone here this afternoon will remember the parable of the sowing of the seed. And the story continues on that as the farmer, the gardener, sowed forth the seed, that the seeds fell in various kinds of soils. Some seed fell along the pathway where it had not been properly tilled, and the ground was so shallow that immediately those seeds became vulnerable, and the vultures and hungry birds came and devoured the seed. Some more seed found itself into lightly tilled soil, and Jesus went on to say, well, those seeds immediately took root and showed sprout quicker than any of the other seeds. But then again, the sun came out, there was a lack of water, and the Bible says, and Jesus says, that because they had no roots, they withered and they died. Then he said there were some other seeds that fell and started to grow, but right alongside of them, they took up residency next to weeds. And those weeds came up and choked out the very life of that new and wonderful fruit-bearing seed that was coming out of the ground. And those wicked weeds, it says, came and strangled the life out of the newborn seed. And then finally, thankfully, at least 25% of the seed actually began to germinate in good soil. But even though it was only 1 in 4 seeds that made it, the harvest out of the good seed was astronomical, because it said, and the seed brought forth some 30, some 60, some 100-fold. The purpose in the moral of that parable was that the precondition of one's heart is an important component in responding to positive and good news. Come on. If you are already predisposed that life is miserable and life sucks and poor me, and you don't know the bills I pay, you don't know the woman I'm living with, you don't know the brat kids that are in the neighborhood, you don't know I just lost my job, and you have a posture of your heart, a condition of your heart that is so negative that even when some good news comes along, it cannot germinate because of that negativity in the very inner soil of your heart. Come on. But more importantly, and in conclusion, who you hang out with is going to be very important in determining whether you will have a successful and joyful life. Right. One of the writers of the sacred Bible said, do not be a fool. If you hang out with bad folk, you are going to become a bad folk. Who you associate with in large measure determines the direction and the outcome and the destiny of your life. Just as those seeds were planted in good soil and began to grow up, and right next to them were weeds, choking, thorn, thistle, briars, rising up and choking out the life, the potential life that could yield a meaningful harvest. I want to encourage you this beautiful Saturday here in Rotterdam that there are some good folk that care and love and accept. You need to find a place where there's a caring, accepting, and merciful and gracious environment so that what good news you will hear will have a more positive opportunity to grow and to develop. So what I'm trying to tell you is this: don't hang out with the weed, and don't smoke it either. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Have a good and glorious afternoon.